Hey guys, it's Brad. Today is our Skycurser Daily number 6. We are going to keep this a relatively short stream today, and the main thing that I'm going to cover today, I may do a brief touch-up on attract mode, but more importantly, I'm going to cover just general object inheritance, removing duplicate code, some tech debt paydown, just to make sure the project stays organized, make sure the project stays maintainable. The problem that you can run into as a developer is that you can get yourself into a situation where you are in the middle of a project, you've been putting a lot of time into a project, and at some point you cross a threshold where if you're not careful and constantly maintaining and staying on top of what it is that you're working on, your entire project, and just kind of the file structure and specifically the inheritance of specific objects, making sure that you're not duplicating code, then your project can literally become unmaintainable. You will not be able to maintain your code past a certain point. It'll just become so it'll be so much of a drag to be able to get into your project, go to that specific place, make a change, and you make a small change in one location and you break your entire application or your entire piece of software or game that you're working on. So we're trying to stay ahead of that, and we're trying to make sure that we don't break that. Also, right now, Chris Cruz is joining me. Hey Chris, how's it going, man?
Brad, what's going on, homie?
Let me give me 1 second here. Hey, mute the stream if you could. Hey Chris, how's it going, man?
I thought it was muted.
It sounds like it is now.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, you're good.
So I made some small tweaks to the really small tweaks to the Gaki orb explosion, Brad.
I'm listening. Yep.
And I thought I could upload those to drop at some point. You could dump the. It's just making the effect look just a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah. Sounds like a plan. The main thing I'll be working on tonight, Chris, is I'm going to be doing some just some tech debt paydown and cleaning up some code, trying to reduce duplicate code where possible. I think there probably won't be a ton of narration. I'll try to talk through things as I'm working on them, but I'll have to do a lot of thinking in terms of where it is exactly that I know there's duplicate code and where I can do some cleanup. So, and then what'll happen is I'll make several changes, and then I'll have to go immediately test those changes to make sure I didn't break anything. So that's what's on the ticket for today, and probably maybe even a couple days. So, but I don't want to lose sight, Chris, of what it is that we're shooting for with MGC. So. Definitely want to stay on top of that. So the main thing that you have, Chris, you said is some basically some updates to the orb impact.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right, and I'm waiting on our guest artist Kelsey to send me the sketches for the Griffin animation.
Yep.
For the super.
Yep.
But the moment that that's done, I'll begin working on that artwork, and we can have that super going, or at least you'll have the artwork. I'll definitely dedicate all my free time to getting that in place for you.
Sure.
So.
Sounds good. Trying to think. I don't think that. I mean, we pretty much. I don't know if you were able to get a good look at it yesterday, Chris, but we got that in a pretty good state before we left it yesterday.
Yeah, no, it looked excellent, man. The only thing that I was thinking that we might consider is potentially maybe just slowing the animation speed down just a touch
for the explosion.
Really, yeah, it's really hard for me to tell on the stream, obviously, because I'm not quite looking at it, the 60 frames per second. But it looked like, generally with animation, the slower the animation plays, the more like powerful, I guess it looks,
Right.
and it did look a little bit like piddly, kind of. So I've tried to soup up the animation a little bit to address that, but also in some instances, slowing the speed of the actual animation down just a touch can help with that too.
Okay. Yep. So that's in Drive right now.
It will be in just a moment.
Okay.
You can get started on your tech debt pay down, and I will let you know as soon as it's up.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So cool. I'll stay tuned for that. Let me see here. Fix a katana slash. Okay, that's on the docket. I do want to fix the afterburner. I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of studying what's going on with the code. Chris, the afterburner just disappeared on us, and I'm not exactly sure what happened to it. So I got to make sure that's fixed. So
Oh wow!
it might be. Oh, by the way, Chris, I did upload a version for the arcade yesterday. So you do have a copy of that in Drive right now. And it has the not perfect version of attract mode.
Okay.
So
Now,
there's
yeah,
a lot. There's a lot. As I've been watching the attract mode, Chris, I'm realizing that it's that the clips are the clips either need to be super long. So that somebody can get a feel for just kind of how the level progresses, or super short.
Yeah, I would go with super short. Everything I was talking to you in the text. Sometimes it's hard to communicate stuff through text. I think the thing in 8 is all about speed. Like, get me the information really quick, and let me back to the game or whatever. So
Yeah.
I would say, like, let's keep the clips crazy short. Like, and I think there's lots. Obviously, there's tons of great reference material out there for us to look at as well to see how other people do it. My primary concern with this, and I know that you've kind of mentioned that I shouldn't be concerned with it, but just knowing what I know about exporting video from video capture from full screen video, I just don't know if it's going to be possible to get a version up that's like not compressed in some way where it's kind of obvious that you're watching a video.
Okay.
So I mean,
Well, I
like I
think
said,
you
I know you
should
put
definitely I think maybe, man, I almost want to just maybe take some time and work on that. Not, I don't think I could do it tonight. I might be able to do it tomorrow night, but it may have to be less of a video stream tomorrow night in terms of my face, but more of my monitor. I think I'm going to have a periodic, like every other day or maybe every couple of days, just do almost a silent stream, more in terms of what I mean by that is just have some music playing in the background and just have my monitor going, just to make it easier on us as we stream, and so that I can maintain this regularity of streaming intervals. So, but that's no big deal at all. I think that may be a good thing for me to work on tomorrow night. Now, Chris, you and I talked for a little bit at one point, and I know that there was a possibility that you might do some pixel art on stream. Like, I'm going to be specifically not able to stream on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think I'll be able to stream on Sunday. Is it
okay.
possible for you to do some pixel art?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I've got I've got some effects animation stuff I need to do, and I might work a little bit more on the 2 boss, which I think would be maybe potentially fun for people to see, me doing that pixel art.
Okay.
So we should definitely talk about what I need on my end to
Yeah.
do the streaming.
Yeah, not a problem. I think I'm excited to help you with that. And in fact, in case you're tuning in on YouTube or Twitch, we're thinking about having 2 different streams, one stream for dev and one stream for art. But for the art of the game, but we haven't fully decided on that yet. We're kind of going back and forth, but the reason why that would be beneficial if we had two, you'd be able to tune in to Chris's channel or tune into this channel at any point in time, especially if we were both working and both streaming at the same time. That would make it so that you could watch and access both of us either at the same time or whichever one would work best for you. And so I don't think we'll always be streaming at the same time. And I think specifically like on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, what I would really like to do is if we get Chris's stream set up and looking the way we need it to and the software in place, I would host him, so you'd be able to tune into his stream from here as well, or just go straight to that stream. So either way. So yeah, Chris, let's talk more, you and I off air on that. Yeah, I think for now, while you're still working, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and start working on some tech debt pay down, and maybe tomorrow what I'll do is have that more of that silent stream and just have some music playing, but people can watch me work. And I'll maybe work on a tracked mode tomorrow and getting it polished up. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Chris. When I'm watching it, I almost can't even tell. The screen recording software actually records at 60 frames per second. So that's a setting I can actually tune. So it should record in exactly the way it should. The problem. So Chris, you're probably wondering why I decided to go with that method as opposed to building a keylogger. Specifically, the reason why is because there are certain sections in the game where there are several enemies take random movements across the screen. And so if I were to build a keylogger, it would not only have to log the actions that the player is taking on the game, but it would also have to log those random movements so that it could force a non-random movement when a tracked mode is playing. Does that make sense?
That really does. Can you give me a few examples of
yeah,
enemies?
like for instance, the main thing is if we're talking about the floating eyeball or the FEB, the floating eyeballs for anybody watching is the eyeball that looks like a jellyfish that floats across the screen, and I'll pull them up so we can kind of look at it as we're talking about it, so anybody who's tuning in can kind of understand what we're talking about. And that's enemy 2, and here's the sprite, and here's the movement, and that guy, kind of randomly moves across screen. He moves attacking towards Skycurser for a moment, and then kind of randomly chooses a point off screen once he gets to a certain point on the screen. So it's like, I can't remember exactly, it's like either halfway or 3/4 of the way across the screen, or within a certain distance of Skycurser. He then randomly selects whether he should go to the top or the bottom of the screen, specifically a point way off to the left of the screen from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is that the only reason why you've chosen not to do the keylogger thing?
Well, there are multiple of those actions that occur. Yeah, I mean, multiple.
Because I'm just thinking, like, I mean, I mean, it might not look terrible to have things happen, every time in the demo mode. I just know that, like.
Well, like, here's what I'm thinking is, like, if we're trying to record what's actually happening in demo mode, we do that with the keylogger and then just let the enemies, play the way they're going to play. You're
Right.
going to have Skycurser running into the enemies at some point where he didn't in when we were recording the demo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's not optimal. I take any day over, like, being able to tell that you're watching a video. I mean, if you think about all the legacy of the thousands of arcade games that are out there, it's they use some form of key logging. You can tell it's like you're looking at the actual. The other thing is the size of the video too, right? Like you're gonna triple the size of the game potentially by having a 60 frame per second video embedded in the game itself. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And I'm just kind of trying to make a point for what I'm thinking through here. But let's not belabor that point.
Yeah.
I'm all for,
Well,
just
also, just I'm thinking of for the sake of MGC.
yeah,
I want to get something in place and a track mode in place that doesn't require all of my time between now and MGC. Because
yeah. No, I
if I
completely
if I
agree.
if I build that, then we're virtually gonna build nothing else into the game between
Yeah,
now and MGC, and it might still have some bugs in it. So
yeah. I totally hear you, man. I'm completely on board with that frame of mind. And I think that's the right way to approach it for sure.
cool, cool, cool. Okay.
So the orb is now updated.
Sweet. I'll just go grab that right now and update it since we're talking about it. And I'll turn my monitor on so people can see exactly where I'm going. And so now I'm going to drive. Okay, that's in sprites. Should be in bosses. Squid skull. Let's see. Laser orbs. Nope, that's not it.
Should be like update 3 or something like that on the end.
Explode update 2.
Yeah, that's got to be it.
What'd you do to it? Made it bigger?
Made some there's like these anime style beams that come out of the explosion.
Okay,
It
okay.
kind of made those linger longer and shoot out in different directions. It's fairly subtle, but I'm hoping it'll be nice.
Yep, okay, perfect. Alright, download. Downloading. Extracting. Okay. Now just going to go ahead and update that in the game, and we should be done. And I did already slow it down, Chris, so once I update this, we should be in a good spot. So load sprite instead of edit, and I don't want 323. Instead, I want 324. Let's see if this is it right here. 324, perfect. And remove background, open, and we see it right there. So there's a third version or only a second version, Chris?
There were 3 versions, but I've deleted 2.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, sounds
Yeah.
good. So the one that's remaining should be right.
Yep.
Okay, so that's it. It's right there. As soon as it's done, it's going to destroy itself. And let's just go ahead and fast forward and take a look at that. Turn off my monitor so we can see Game Maker, and then we should be switching over to Skycurser here in a second. I got to get these lights worked out so they work a little bit better. They need to be white lights instead of yellow lights because they had somebody say it makes yesterday, so
Yeah.
gotta get that fixed. Alright, so we're going in game here. Still loading, almost finished.
No worries.
Can you hear me just fine, Chris?
Yeah, very perfectly.
Okay, how about when I'm talking now with the game?
I hear you great.
Okay, cool. I'm actually going to turn it down just slightly.
Death at dusk. Go.
That's not me. That was not me. That was that was actually the demo. Um, Another thing, Chris, that I was going to mention, we got to make sure that we fully kind of, you know, watch enough of these examples so that we run our demo mode just like the other ones. You know, like what happens if you have a credit? Do you never go to demo mode?
Skycurser.
Also, one thing that I got to fix right now. Keep on.
Yeah, a lot.
I'm in
of
arcade
games
mode, so I got to get out and get to keyboard mode. That's why I couldn't control anything. I'm listening to you, Chris.
Yeah, a lot of games will, like attract mode is just that. It's designed to attract you to put your quarter in. So a lot of games, if you do have a credit in, 90% of arcade games, if you put in, it'll just take you to the title screen, and instead of saying insert, it'll say press start.
Okay, so the second that you put a coin in, it generally changes over to press start.
Yeah, and it generally will kick out of demo mode, attract mode, whatever you want to call it, take you back to the title screen and say, basically in a way of saying, thanks for putting your money in, and here's the title screen, press start.
Ah, okay. So we
Yeah.
gotta update that. All right.
I noticed it's like
I'm gonna fast forward straight to boss mode.
sometimes people were looking for where to put coins in, even though the game was telling them to insert more. You know what I'm saying?
Say that one more time.
At some of the events, people were actually looking for where to put the coins in. Like in Louisville, even though he was in there.
Yeah. Okay, because they didn't realize. Okay. Yep. Oh man, this is a bug. We got a bug going here. I'm not exactly sure why. He shouldn't be just shooting out. I didn't really change anything else. Let's take a look at this again, see if he does it every time.
Oh wow! I think you replaced the orb.
You're right.
Replaced
You're
the
right.
wrong thing. Yeah.
Oh shit! All right. Orb attack. That's what I need to replace. All right. Where are we at? Boss 1.
Jackie's hilarious, man. He just looks like an asshole.
Boss 1. Where's your attack at? All right. Well.
Hey, Brad, just a heads up. Sometimes when you're getting back from leaving the game, it's just a black screen.
Thanks for that. Yep. Okay. Well, I'm still trying to get the technical,
Yeah,
pieces
no,
of
no
the hardware
worries.
worked out. It's
I didn't mean to complain. I was just giving you a heads up.
No, that's perfect. I needed to know that because for whatever reason, the software doesn't just automatically switch right back over to the game. So.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I found the orb impact. I'm gonna have to go download the orb again because I don't have it on my machine. So let me do that. But
Okay.
more importantly, let me get this new one on here. That makes perfect sense why it did that. I didn't mean for that to get swapped out.
No, man.
Here we go. Laser orbs. Boom. Download. Make sure I'm not missing anything in chat.
I'll keep an eye on chat for you.
Okay,
Brad.
perfect. Okay, cool. I've got a mod in here. It's Nightbot. Nightbot is actually a mod bot, so I could tell you more about that later as we're looking at the software and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, if you don't get any kind of notification or chime or anything when someone puts something in chat.
Yeah, there's got to be a way. Like I'm not entirely sure, but there's got to be a way to, let Twitch be a little bit more responsive to me, so that I know, and like informative. Whenever so I don't have to keep like glancing over to chat every 2 seconds.
Right. Right. Of
I'm sure
course.
other people have addressed the same issue.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Good. We're in a good spot. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit play again. One other thing I noticed on attract mode, well, let me just say this, Chris, like we're allowed, you know, that mode actually allows me to put additional sprites on screen while the video is playing and stuff. So I can overlay the video with sprites, and one thing I've noticed that a lot of games do on attract mode is they have like a logo or
Yeah.
something up at the top
Yep.
of the screen while
Yep.
it's running, just
I
to
was thinking
kind of
about doing
indicate that it's not, you know, that it's just going through for sure demo mode, you know.
yeah, and they'll keep the insert credit overlay blinking even
Yes.
over the demo. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Yep, yep. Okay, we're going back in here. I'll make sure everything does what it should.
Skycurser. Mission 1. Death at dusk.
Okay,
Go!
Jackie. It looks so good whenever you're fast forwarding. I love how fast you can hit the katana when you're fast forwarding.
It's so crazy how fast.
Alright, here we go. Yeah, that looks quite a bit better in my opinion. I mean, I only really slowed it down by about 15%, but it was already down to 40%. I took it down to 25%.
Yeah, it's just enough to just like boom, you know.
Yeah, like oh, something just happened, right?
I'm on where you are, so I'm only in the first round right now.
Say that one more time.
I'm on a pretty big delay from where you are, so I'm seeing the second set. Yeah, that looks great.
Okay,
I like
yep.
it a lot.
Yep, yep. Awesome. Okay.
Oh, that was interesting. When you died,
It went through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got that set up that way. I can keep that from happening if you want. What do you think?
Is that just a general rule that once Skycurser dies, like he can't do damage to anything else
Yeah,
on
the
screen?
main reason for that is, especially on something like Gaki, you don't, you know, like, I don't necessarily want something to be able to kill Gaki, and Skycurser just lost all of his lives. What do you do then? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Nope. You're exactly right.
You know.
As you were saying it, I was like, yep, that's right. That's
Right.
definitely the right way to handle it.
Okay, cool. So boom, that one's off the plate then. I think, unless you got something critical right now, I think what I'm going to do is just focus on code cleanup.
Yep. No, that's fine. I'll probably just mute myself on my end.
Okay, cool.
And try to work a little bit over here. Maybe do some of these effects animations I need to do.
Okay.
But just feel free to holler for me if you have any questions when you're going stuff.
Okay, yeah, sounds good, man. All right.
All right, dude.
Peace. Okay, so if you're just joining on YouTube or on Twitch, I just finished with the EBP missile deflection, and we feel like that's in a good spot. I'm going to go ahead and update the frame so that it looks like that. Give me a second. The current task is what I'm going to update. So I'm going to change this back to 2, SC2, and just call this tech debt paydown. Or I think I'll make this a little bit better and just say object inheritance. And I think that makes a little bit more sense and is a little bit more friendly. Okay. And I've only got about an hour left, so I want to make sure to get as much of this done as possible. I think the first thing I'm going to do is reorganize some of the files that I have on the system now. I already did some organization of the files the other day. I went ahead and bucketed some things in a Skycurser folder, a helpers folder, a room controls folder, and the enemies folders, and each one of the enemies has their own folder now. So I can quickly go and modify scripts inside of there. But in seeing some better game design in terms of just maintainability and organization, I see some better ways to handle the code. And so I think I'm going to work on that right now. That'll be the main thing that I focus on. And I'm looking at my baby monitor. Of course, I have a son, and I think I'm going to go check on him real quick. I'm going to make sure he's doing okay, and so I'm just going to step away, and I will be right back. All right, thanks guys. Sorry about that. Just had to check on him, make sure he was doing all right. So now, where was I? I was going to be modifying some objects. Let's see here. So the way I have things right now, I have some things set up in each one of the enemies. I think that's where I'm going to focus on mainly right now. On each one of the enemies, I think I can get the most out of reorganizing a lot of the code that exists here. And so I've decided that the best thing to do is going to be to take the create events and to take a lot of that code and pull it out into a script and try to organize some of the some of this initially. But So that's the create event. I do want to affect or touch each one of the create events for each one of the enemies that I have. And I think that's a good place to start. I want to take a lot of that code out and put it into a script. I also want to do the same thing with the step events. I almost like the way I have the step events, but I need to do some object inheritance with the enemies right now and put a lot of that. I think I can reduce so much code that I have right now by just taking a lot of that and putting that into a parent object, a parent enemy object, and by taking a lot of that code out, that is taking a lot of the code that's in each one of the enemies and putting it in the parent object, and then making sure my scripts have the right variables passed in so that I'm writing minimal code in each one of the enemies. The main thing that I'll be affecting is a few things on create or step, and associating a sprite with each one of the objects. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to create a parent enemy object, and it will mainly be associated with each of the enemies that I have. I may even associate the boss with the parent enemy object, but you know, as we introduce more bosses in the future, I may have a boss parent object. But for now, I think I'm just going to have a what I'm going to call a object base enemy, similar to my object base shrapnel. Create object base enemy. So I know it's still an object. I specify that with obj, but the base would indicate that this is the parent of any enemy. And when it comes to inheritance in code, specifically, I'm a software engineer during the day, and of course a gaming engineer at night. And I've been working with GameMaker for about a year now, and I've found that the best time to do inheritance with a child object and a parent object is when many of the items are the same between multiple objects, so that whenever you're creating a new object that inherits from a parent object, you're only making small additional changes to that child object. But a lot of the similarities between each of the enemy objects can be wrapped up into a parent object. And so that's just kind of how you think of it. Where can I wrap a lot of these up into so that I'm not reusing a lot of this? And where I cannot wrap it up into a parent object is where I'm going to try to wrap it up into a script, a reusable script that will just take additional multiple parameters. Okay, so I have object base enemy. It will have no sprite. It will be the parent. It will have children. I'm going to go ahead and make my associations right now. And I'm also going to do one thing here, which is create groups for each of the enemies, so that this area is a little bit more friendly. Object enemy 2. Object enemy 5. I'm doing 5 because I think I can just quickly grab some of this right here. Object enemy 4. Object, whoops, cancel. Okay, that accidentally created an extra object. Just going to delete it because I don't need it. think I'm going to rename the folders too, so they don't look like objects. Rename. So I'll just call them, similar to what I did with my scripts, I will just call them wish it would let me just. Oh, Game Maker. File system. Please update your file system. Your UI for your file system, that is. F2. There we go. Jeez. I don't want the folders or the groups of these particular objects to look like objects themselves, or for me to be confused by them, or another developer at some point to be confused by them as they're looking at the sets of objects here. So object enemy 3, or specifically enemy 3. Enemy 3. I do see enemy 2. Enemy 2. Let's see, I see boss, I see enemy 1. I need to drop enemy 1 down in there. Enemy 1 prop. Enemy 1 attack. Okay. Boss 1. There's a lot of boss things. Also tank 1. Tank 1. Tank. Oh my gosh. Freaking Game Maker. Sorry guys, I need to disable a key that I keep accidentally hitting on my mouse. Give me a second to do that. Okay, let's try this again. Necrostar. Shoot. Created an object, didn't mean to do that. Delete. Yep. No. Create group. I've already created the boss. I need to create the Necrostar 1. And then create Necrostar 2. Right now we don't really have any other associations with Necrostar 2. Just the one, the object. Since I'm grouping everything else into a group. I'll go ahead and create a group for Necrostar 2 just in case I add anything in the future for that. Okay, so tank, 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 boss. Boss, 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 boss. Okay. Now I've got everything, every enemy grouped similar to the way I had it with the scripts. Gonna do a little reorganization really quickly. Oh man. Wow, this is... One, two, three, four, five. I'd prefer to have the tank out. Okay, just trying to keep the assets organized. And then put this guy... My goodness. What a headache. Okay, got it. Don't mess with the UI in GameMaker for the file system. It needs some work. GameMaker, if you're watching, please work on your UI for the file system. I would love for you to enable drag and drop of multiple files. I would love for you to update the when I'm holding a file, when I'm clicking on a file and trying to scroll down or scroll up, because if I'm clicking on a file like I am right now and I'm holding down on it, I can't scroll up with the mouse. I can't scroll down with the mouse. Obviously, I'm at the bottom of the screen right now, but I can't scroll with the mouse. If I take this object and go to the top of the screen, it just starts jumping in a really bad place. I kind of lose track of where I'm at. It's not a smooth scroll. So yeah, that can just waste a lot of my time as I'm trying to, you know, maintain the code base here. So, all right, so that's in a good place. Now I have this object base enemy, and I'm going to add a, let me get out of these other ones. Going to add a create event. I know most of my enemies have a create event. Most of them have a step event. Most of them have a destroy event. And I'm not sure if most of them have a draw event. We'll kind of hold off on that one for a minute. Some of them have, some of the objects themselves have a animation end event, not the enemy directly, but some of the effects related to the enemy. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and associate this enemy with the parent, which I already did that one. Let's do that with enemy 2 now. So here's enemy 2. Drag it up for maintainability purposes. Also enemies, object base enemy. Enemy 3. Enemy 3 here. Parent. No, not a parent. That was an accident. Enemies, object base enemy. Remove. Can I remove this guy? Why did this become the parent all of a sudden? No parent. No children. Oh, okay, so it looks like I gotta go back into here. Okay, it removed it. Enemy, base enemy, enemy 4. I accidentally clicked parent again. Let's try this. Enemy, base enemy, enemy 5. That's the 5 death. I want to close out of these other ones and make sure this looks right. Okay, good. So far so good. Enemy 5, base enemy, Tank 1 is an enemy. Base enemy. And boss 1. Base enemy. Necro Star. I will say that this counts as an enemy. I'm going to assign it to the base enemy. Necro Star 2. So the Necro Star chunks are the things that kind of look like asteroids flying through the air. They're not, you cannot destroy those enemies, but they can destroy you. You can deflect them, and you can make sure your path is cleared by deflecting them, but you cannot kill them. So because they can kill you, and because you can have an effect on them with one of your weapons, I'm considering them as an enemy. Okay. We're in a good spot here with inheritance. Now, if I open up base enemy, we see that it has all these children here. My create event disappeared. I'm kind of concerned about that because what that makes me think is that I might have accidentally assigned the create step and destroy events to an object that did not need it. But if those events are blank, then nothing's going to occur. So I'm going to proceed right now as if everything is okay. Actually, let me go ahead and go in game and just verify this. I haven't changed much up to this point. I've just done some organization and I created some inheritance. Before I get too far, I just want to test the game really quick and make sure I don't have any bugs and that the game doesn't break. So I'm just going to do that really quick. Okay, here we go. So far, everything's loading in as planned. Just fast forwarding through the level. Just want to make sure everything's over and do what it should do. If I make it all the way to Gaki and nothing breaks, that's a really good sign. I don't expect anything to break because the changes were so minor. Okay, done. I feel good about that up to this point. That means I didn't assign the create. I think I know what happened. I think I did assign them to the object-based enemy, but if you don't assign any actions to the events, and you basically click OK, by default, GameMaker removes them because they're not actually holding any actions, and so they're kind of a waste of code and processing. So GameMaker removes them by default. Not to worry, I can begin to build everything again from here, and I'll just start methodically here with the create event. And many of the enemies have hit points, and so I say many because I'm not sure that the Necro Star chunks have hit points, but everything else should have hit points. So there are definitely certain. Here's what one other thing that I'm going to do. No, I think I'm in a good spot. I was thinking about where I'm at with what branch I'm currently working off of with Git. I'll show you where I'm at. I was going to commit any changes that I potentially had. Actually, this is a good place to be at right now before I start making any major changes. So right now, I have some changes in my dev branch, and I want to make sure that I commit and push those changes and then check out my new branch. The main reason why is so that I have a clean dev branch that I'm working off of, that I know that I know is working overall, that I can come back to and return back to if necessary. So let's go ahead and get. Let me see, get status. Looks like several modified files. I'll just make sure everything is added. I believe everything already is added, but now it is for sure. Commit. Beginning work. Saving state before implementing tech debt paydown. Git push. Normally I don't work off my dev branch. It was an accident that I am still on my dev branch. I like to work off my feature branches and then make sure the feature branch is in a good state, and then switch back over to dev and merge that branch into dev. But I accidentally made a couple of changes before. But that's completely fine. What we're going to do right now is check out a new branch. Actually, I don't need to check out a new branch because I do have this branch already created, and I'll verify that by typing git branch. If you're not familiar with Git is a version file control system, and it's definitely something to look into, especially if you're a software engineer or interested in software engineering, so that you can professionally and safely manage different versions of a file, especially if there are multiple developers working on a project at the same time. So the branch that I'm looking for is right here, SC2, so I'm going to check out that branch, git checkout SC2, and I'll show you exactly. Let's also make sure this branch is up to date. It does say that it's up to date with SC2, but I also want to do a git fetch, and I want to merge dev into this branch because I just had some dev changes. So git pull origin dev. So there should definitely be some changes here. Looks like it's updating. It would say up to date if it were not. And I think it's working through some video files that load in with the tracked mode. It's done with that because it was mostly already up to date. And so now we're in a good state to start working. And so in case you're wondering what SC2 refers to, if you have joined us in the past, you're probably familiar that SC2 currently refers to the current ticket that I'm working on. And I'll make sure that you see that. Yeah, so the current ticket I'm working on is in Trello, and it's tech debt paydown, and these other 3 tickets are related to the tech debt paydown, so that's what I am currently working on and trying to make sure is in a good place. So back to Game Maker. Okay. And so now I'm just going to focus on, now that I'm in this good state on this SC2 branch, the one that is all my tech debt paydown. And actually, since I did switch branches, I'm going to temporarily restart Game Maker. Of course, when I restart Game Maker, everything shuts off for a minute, so give me a second while I restart Game Maker. because what I've noticed is GameMaker doesn't always play nice when I switch branches with Git, mainly because I think what happens is it loses references to where certain objects are and where certain files are in the game. So I've also found that just a quick restart of GameMaker allows it to not get into a weird state where it doesn't know where certain things are, especially if you've merged in changes from a different branch. It's extremely helpful to find to restart GameMaker and pick up where you left off. So okay, good state. Now we were back at object base enemy, and I think what I got to do here while we're dealing with this is try to figure out the GameMaker way of having multiple tabs open. I would love to go ahead and just work on these files in my own text editor, which is on Windows is eText Editor. When I'm programming on a Mac, I use Sublime Text Editor, specifically version 3. I love the plugins that you can add to that, but GameMaker comes on Windows, Windows only, so I'm working on a Windows machine. And let me see here. I may have to do some just quick reading on. I think GameMaker was recently touting its new functionality with tabs, so I may take a look at that here in a minute. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go online really quick and do this very quick research to see if I can figure out what the deal is. It's not intuitive. That's part of the problem. Is technically, if I start opening multiple objects and the events / the actions within the events of each object, what I would like it to do is just kind of stack tabs like a browser does. But what they do instead is keep the tabs connected to the object, so that the second I close the tab on the object, I have to basically get out of that object or open a new object before I can open a new tab. I guess technically I can open a new action, and that will open a new tab, but the tab will be by itself. It won't be stacked like a browser normally is. So give me just a second. I'm just doing a little bit of research online, kind of let you follow along with me here. GameMaker tabs. Let's just read this. User interface. See, this is what I'm trying to do. Search and filter options, bottom left corner, that's nice. With these you can quickly find a single resource in a project. Another change to the UI can be found in Code Editor for Scripts, which now permits you to create tabbed script groups. Basically, you create a new parent script, which is what will be shown in the resource tree, and in the code editor for that script you can add further child scripts to it by simply clicking the new tab at the top of the window. I mean, that's not helpful. I mean, that's mainly just scripts. I don't need to be in scripts. I'm not currently in scripts trying to work on this, so let me just see what they're talking about here, see if I can figure this out. Ah, there's the tab functionality. I like it. Why can't I just open another script right next to this one and let it be in the same window? Okay. GameMaker, I'm all in on this, man. Please, somebody at GameMaker, hear me and update this so that I can open multiple tabs. It's kind of annoying having to have multiple objects open and then not being able to read all the tabs here like I would in any other editor. Is it possible to build something like that? Okay, so let's just look at the crate of this one in particular. What I'd like to do is just find the similarities between all my enemies and make sure those get dropped into the parent. And then here's the other problem is with doing object inheritance, I'm not entirely sure. I don't believe that the create event runs on the parent if the child has its own create event. If that's the case, then we might have a little bit of a problem, specifically because I might need to have the child basically extend what the parent does instead of just do something separate than what the parent does. So that's one thing I'm working through as we're talking right now. Okay. I think what I'll do here is go ahead and I've got this enemies group. I think I might create a script here. I'll create a group first, and this will be my base enemy group. So my base enemy should be inside of my scripts folder for my enemies, and there it is right there. Inside of here I want to create a script, and this will be my script enemy init for initialize. Again, I was watching I was just kind of doing a lot of research and trying to figure out how people are like in a smart way organizing their scripts and their objects inside of GameMaker, and I kind of have seen some ideas and I'm trying to implement those right now. One of the things that I saw is basically the object has a create event. Inside of the create event, you don't do a lot of logic in there. Instead, you do a lot of your logic inside of an init script, similar to the way that you would do it in just software engineering in general, or if you were programming straight in like C++, something like that, for a game. But basically, you would, if you were programming in terms of software engineering, you would just basically create a class which would serve as an object most of the time, and inside of that class you would have an initialize script. The initialize script would set all of your the variables and maybe run some specific functions or methods. In this case, in GameMaker's case, it would run some scripts, and then it would pass it off to whatever else is going to happen next. So maybe a different object interacts with this object and then another script occurs, but there should be an init script for each one of the objects. And so as I kind of work this out, I'm going to create this init script, and then I'm also going to create the other pieces of functionality in here. So alright, so I've got this init script. I'm going to pull this down, and I think what I'll do is make a quick test. I think this will be my test right now to see if I have a parent object and a child object. If I set something in the parent object and then I set something in the child object, let's say it's something completely different than what's set in the parent object, does the child object also have what's in the parent object if they both have a create event or if they both have a step event? In this case, I'm going to keep it really simple and make this test without a lot of variables in here, so that I can decisively tell if it has succeeded or not. So the lighting and this green screen are not working well together. So Seems like every time I move closer or further away from the screen, the green screen just doesn't, the light in the green screen just don't know how to handle it because I don't have professional light set up, of course. But I do need the green screen just for a little bit of privacy for us, you know. What can I take out of here? Object base enemy init, script object base enemy init, and I'm going to go to my object base enemy, add an event, a create event. Going to add some code in here. From here, I'm going to call script object base enemy init and let it ride. And in here, I'm just going to go ahead and set a variable. Let's just set a variable and just call it on screen equals true. And what we should be able to do with this, since I'm not setting this variable inside of object enemy 1, I should be able to say when enemy 1 comes on screen, does it have this on screen, in particular, does it have this on screen variable? And if it does, throw up a debug message. I basically have a debug message piece that I have worked out so that I can throw some debugging information on screen. And the text right now is huge. I think if I actually did this correctly, I would pass all of my debugging messages and everything potentially into a debug array, and then output basically some small text on screen so that I could see everything, all the variables that I'm passing, if I needed to. But for now, on screen equals true. I think it's going to be that simple of a test. And in this guy's draw event, I'm going to check Skycurser's draw event really quickly. Okay, I know I've got a in my controller, I've got where my debug messages are, and it's my persistent controller. My persistent controller allows me to pass things basically like, it's like saving state between rooms if I'm moving between rooms, and I move between rooms all the time. Between the title screen to level 1, to the high score screen, to the initial screen, to the story mode. It allows me to kind of save state like the user session basically, and so it comes in handy. And in this case, I need it to do some drawing. And I want to see the debug message, and I have to turn debug mode on and then pass a variable into global.messageDebug, and the variable will be on screen. So I think what I'll do is, let's turn debug mode on initially. I have that currently set up in macros, which is basically, if you're familiar with software engineering in general, it's like a constant. So it loads in, and you can never change it again once it's loaded in. You can't change it during gameplay once it's loaded in. So enemy 1. Going to go to enemy 1 again, enemy 1's draw event, and say I don't need to go to its draw event, I need to go to its step event and say global.messageDebug equals on screen. I think I have to call it a string. I may not have to because I know I'm outputting global.messageDebug as a string itself. So on screen, I think it will either show 1 or 0 or completely fail if it didn't load in at all. So right now, let's just verify what that value should be one more time. And it's in script base enemy init. So let's go look at script base enemy init. On screen equals true. So we should either see true or 0. Either see true or 1 if it is working correctly when that guy comes on screen, specifically the EBP, the eyeball plane. Okay, so I'm going in game and testing this immediately. If this works, this means that GameMaker on inheritance of a parent object allows the parent's create event to run and the child's create event to run, and the child's create event won't overwrite the parent's create event. I'm not sure how this is going to work, so I'm thinking it might blow up whenever the object tries to come on screen. Okay, here we go.
Skycurser. Mission 1. Death at dusk. Go!
I'm going to fast forward to them. Ooh. On screen. As I suspected that might happen. Copy the message, abort. So, message debug. Let me see. Let me make sure I got the variable. The thing I do when something like that happens is I make sure I got my variable names correct first before I count it completely out. And so I'm going to look at the debug message, what the specific variable name is, and I want to make sure I got the same variable name over in the step event. I'm in the controller. Let me see. Message debug. Okay. I need to go to the enemy. It needs to say message debug in the step. It does. So message debug equals on screen. I wonder if I can say parent dot on screen. Let's go read in GameMaker. Come on. Why is this jumping up the screen like this? Here we go. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. First object get parent. Has been assigned to the specified object, or else -100 to show that the object has no parent assigned. If the object being checked does not exist, for more information on parent CDI, see the section more about objects. Okay, so I'm actually just gonna grab it in this way exactly. Okay, back, close, and I'm gonna do this. In this create event, I'm gonna set the parent variable, object get parent of yourself, now I have the parent. To keep this clear, I'm just going to call it parent. Going to go over the step, event, and see if I can say parent.onScreen. And if that's the case, then it worked. The thing that I was thinking is maybe this did not get set. Maybe I'm incorrectly referring to this variable. That's what I was thinking. And so maybe I can properly refer to it by referring to the parent object itself, .onScreen. So let's try that. Okay, going in game. Should be showing up for you in a minute. Alright, gonna go see if we can find this enemy. Trying to let it just kind of load in like it should. Okay, same bug. Unable to find any instance for object index 60. Global.message parent.onScreen. It's almost like it's what I was kind of concerned about happening is happening. And the thing that I said is that if the parent if you're working off of events, if the parent object has an event, a create event, let's say, and the child object has a create event, the child object and everything that's in the child object's create event overwrites anything in the create event for the parent. So I can't set a variable in the parent and then go to the child and call the create event with, you know, let's say, I can't call the create event and just expect that the parent variables will be there because they should have occurred in the create event of the parent. Instead, if the child has the create event, the parent create event just basically doesn't exist. It doesn't run. So I got to verify this. I want to go do a little bit of research just to make sure, again, just a little bit more reading on this to make sure I'm correct about how I'm thinking about this. So I'm going to do that right now. Let you follow along with me. Oh good, you already are following along with me. Okay, perfect. That was tabs. Let me look at this. Looks like they have their own way of doing file versioning, SVN. Boo. Game Maker. Yes, please add get ASAP instead of me having to do this myself. Build it in for me, that'd be great. Get is way more advanced than SVN. Sorry for all the SVN users out there, but it's a lot faster. I've used both. Game Maker object inheritance, parents are objects. Share code, actions, and events with the parent. This is called inheritance. An object that has a parent is called a child, but that's not all. You can also do checks and run code on parent objects, which automatically include the child objects too, which saves a lot of time and energy. Another way to look at a parent object is a way to group objects together under the same umbrella and have them share certain things without losing their own identity. Now, this may seem a bit complicated to understand, so let's give some examples. Don't really care about the examples. I understand what the parent and the child is. You can use parenting to mix and match events and behaviors. Say you want two monsters, one that moves up and down while another that moves left and right, but you also want two of them to have the same health and shoot at the player. In this case, you can see that almost all events should have the same actions except for one or two that govern movement. So again, we can make one object the parent of the other, but in this case we also define certain events for the child object. These events override the parent events, meaning that whenever an event for the child object contains actions, these are executed instead of the actions contained in the event of the parent. If you also want to execute the parent event, you can call the so-called inherited event using the appropriate action or code. I like that. That's what we need. Okay, guys. Again, I'm taking a look at my son really quick, and just got to go check on him really quick. I like this piece right here. I'm going to come right back to it. I'll be back in probably less than 2 or 3 minutes. So sorry about the break, but I'm going to go on break just for a minute. Okay, I'm back. So, hey, got to check on the son. Dad, real, it's what you got to do as a dad. So, alright, so if you also want to execute the parent event, you can call the so-called inherited event using the appropriate action or code. Instance position, number, find that works when you refer to variables and other objects too, like in the above monster example. If I set the monster 1 speed to 10, then the monster's 2 speed will also go to 10 as it is a child of monster 1. It is actually good practice in most cases to create one base parent object and have this base object contain all the default behavior but never use it in the game. Rather, use all the children objects and only use the parent in situations like those I have outlined above. You should also realize that parents can have parents too. Obviously, you can't create a cycle of parent 1 is child of parent 2 is child of parent 1, so that'd be like a loop of objects. But you can create what's called object hierarchy, where parent 1 is child of parent 2 is child of parent 3. That makes sense. Keep your game structured. Strongly advised to learn to use this mechanism. Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. But what is this inherited? What is this? Where are we? Meaning that if you also want to execute the parent event, you can call the so-called inherited event let me see if that's obvious inside of object enemy 1 for me to call the parent event. Other user defined. I don't see anything to do with the parent. Keyboard. Nope, it's not immediately obvious. Okay. See, the thing is, I would like to have, you know, I would like to have a lot of variables set in the parent. Now, I do have a lot of custom variables, but the way that it should work is that you should be able to set the variable in the parent, and the child should be able to override the variable. That's what I would love to happen, or to be able to create, so that basically, you know, I create a new child object, and it automatically gets everything that it should have in terms of variables, and then I can just, if I need to have a different, you know, value for that variable, then I should be able to specify that, and it should pick it up. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. So these guys are saying basically the same thing that GameMaker is saying. Oh, well, it is GameMaker, and they're talking more about objects. GameMaker has so many different manuals online. Sometimes I don't understand why they have so many different manuals. I mean, just publish one manual, or one place where I can go to different versions of the manual. You know, like if I'm on a specific build, I can look at the manual for that build in one place, but it seems like they're all over the place. Event inherited. That might be what I need. Call the inherited event of an object. Okay, that's probably it then. Let's try it. Event inherited. So I don't think I need this parent. Let's call event inherited. Boom. Looks like it's recognized it. Looks like a GameMaker preserved name. GameMaker namespace, I think that would be the correct way to refer to that. And then I should be able to basically just run this code again, and it should correctly set the debug message. So let's see if that worked. This would be so awesome if it works. Save us so much.
Skycurser. Mission 1. Death.
Fast forward. This is good because I got past where I wanted to get past, but I need to update some of my code before I try this again. Let's try it. Play again. So I just went back into my step event. I know you couldn't see that for a second, but I just went back into the step event and removed parent.onScreen and just left it at onScreen because technically it should have inherited this properly. Let's see this in a second. Okay, going back to the game.
Mission 1. Death.
Come on, you know you want to. Yes, it worked. That's exactly what we needed. Oh man, it's game over now. It's game over. Alright. Oh man, that's so good to see. Now I know that I can inherit whatever variables I need to. And actually, I'm going to leave that in there go ahead and inherit, but what I want to do is make sure that I can properly overwrite it when I get here. So I'm going to say on screen equals false, so I should see 0 instead of 1. Let me make sure I have that name correct. Yep, on underscore screen. Sorry guys, I know I'm trying to get my switching back and forth correct, but basically I went back into here and I left this, I'm leaving this here. I went to my create event, looking at the actions, and I set on screen to false. Now that I've inherited it from the parent, I should be able to set this to false, and then when I output the message, so we know for sure it inherited properly, but when I output the message, instead of seeing 1 like I did just a second ago, I should see 0 up in the top right corner. That's where my debug message is, and that's where I saw it. So when you take a look at this, if you take a look at this either on YouTube later or you go back and look at this stream, go back and look at the top right corner, and you're about to see it again because I'm about to run this. Whenever the eyeball plane comes on screen, look in the top right corner. That's where I'm looking. That's where I have my debug messages outputting right now. Let's try this again. Time check. 9:40.
Mission 1. Death at dusk. Go.
0. Overridden. Okay. So got it. We're in a really good place here for this. So I'm coming up against time here. We properly discovered. I wish I had gotten a chance to do this long before now in terms of utilizing Game Maker and doing inheritance correctly. But you've joined me in a good place because we're making this discovery together. And what you're going to see as I start to do more tech debt paydown, and I may do some more tech debt paydown and object inheritance as I get off screen, just to keep this moving, so that we're not stuck at the same place the next time I join in. But we're at a really good place because we see now that we can set variables in the parent, and we can get that exact variable, or we can override it in the child, and that's the exact way that it should work in terms of object inheritance. That's what I need to occur to make this work correctly. I was a little concerned at first when I read, initially how the events worked, that if you set an event in the parent and then you set the exact same event in the child, then it doesn't run the parent event, and you have to expressly call the event inherited. And I understand why that could be useful, but I also just basic software engineering, how I'm familiar with, automatically runs whatever's in the parent initialize, or the parent whatever, and then once it gets to the child object, then you already have all those things that are created in the parent object. So what I'm going to spend a lot of my time doing over the next several opportunities that I have to work on this specific task / ticket, I'm going to spend my time working in the enemies. I think I'm going to get the most the added benefit here in the enemies, and I'm going to find all the similarities, specifically the similar variables that I'm setting between all of the different enemies, so that I can set them in the parent, and if they need to be overridden in the child, then they can be overridden. Otherwise, I don't even have to include it in the child. So that's going to be a little bit tedious as I'm working through them, and I have to really focus on one object at a time and making sure that the parent has everything it needs to call in order to call the next thing. The other thing I want to do is make sure that I'm not just adding variables to the parent that are only in one object. That's a waste of code as well, because if I add variables to the parent that are only in one object, then that code runs every single time that object comes comes on screen, or any other objects that inherit from that parent. And when those other objects that are not the one that needed that variable comes on screen, it's a waste of resources. And so I'm trying to reduce that and make sure I'm doing this properly. So I think we're in a good spot. I need to go ahead and cut this short. I would love for you, if you're catching this on YouTube, to ask me any questions that you might have. Put a comment in the video below. Also, if you're catching this on Twitch, please feel free to reach out to me, send me a private message, and or if possible, comment on a video that you're watching. But I'd love to answer any questions related to this and help you through whatever project you're working on. I'm just part of our project. This Skycurser project is a passion for us, and to date, we've made $0 on the project, and we've been working on the project for over a year. But we've learned a lot in the process, and so what I'd like to do, I think it's really important to not only just take the knowledge that we've had and be able to hopefully generate some income on the game, but more importantly, just pay it forward to anybody else who would like to learn a little bit more about Game Maker or game design / game development in general. Game Maker is not the super advanced commercial platform, but I think it could be that a lot of game developers use. A lot of game developers develop directly in C. I think specifically C++, and some of them use a platform called Unity. I've seen Unity. It does a really good job of kind of displaying relationships between objects, and I think there's way more to it than just that. But it looks like Game Maker is in active development, and that these guys over at the team with Game Maker just continue to add on to what's on this platform. So it lets you come in at a very novice level, and also allows you to justify sticking with the program at a very advanced level if if you can kind of get the general concepts and how they relate to software engineering in general. You can begin to really use it to actually make some quick strides. So although I do mention like some of the headaches with Game Maker, I really like it, especially for the low cost that it is, and the fact that we're indie devs and just trying to put together this this arcade game and get it out there and get it played in the arcade. That's really what we want to do. I think it serves its purpose well, and I think it will only get better as the guys are over at the team are still actively developing on it. So so if you're with the Game Maker team, I really appreciate the piece of software that you put together at honestly at this low price. I swear I'm not in any way paid by Game Maker, but I've been working with it for over a year, so I know some of the headaches and I know some of the pros to it as well. So but yeah, I think what I'm going to do, you probably caught this at the beginning of the stream if you followed along, but there will be some days that I can't just hop on screen and have this camera and talk to the camera and just talk through some of the things that I'm working on, and I may not even be able to hop on the mic, at least initially, but I'll be working. You'll be able to see my monitor. If you have questions, you can ask the questions, and I'll pay attention to chat, and I'll hop on the mic if there is a question that I can answer. But try to do this as much as I can, and I'll try to get the green screen set up a little bit better. As you can see, still working through some of the technical difficulties, still working through the green screen, and just trying to make a better experience for the viewer. But yeah, so again, we're going to be at MGC. If you want to follow us and know when we're coming on every night, there's a schedule listed right below the Twitch video output, the stream output on Twitch. In our channel we have the schedule information online. If we can't ever make it online for some reason, we'll put a note there the same day. But we are trying to stream daily, and follow us on Twitter, because that will tell you exactly when we're going live. We basically have it connected, and we'll tell you exactly when we're going live, so you can catch us online. Chris, I'm getting ready to hop off. If you're there, man, do you have any last things?
Good stream. No, I just I've been working a little bit on answering some interview questions, and that we had sent our way for an interview that we're really excited about. And I've just been listening in. Kind of interesting for me, Brad, to watch you do some of this more, I guess you would call maintenance type work. It kind of helps me appreciate and understand all the things that are going in behind the scenes. And another thing is hopefully I'll be able to, as an art, guy, be able to speak more. And the more I watch and the more I familiarize myself with your programming style and the way you've got things up. So, just another note, fellow developers there, I think it's critical to be able to communicate, as an artist to a developer and as a developer to an artist. And I think one of the awesome things about the Skycurser team is we have a lot of that going on naturally. But, this kind of situation where I can watch Brad program and hopefully at one point he can watch me do sprite work, it'll just strengthen that communication, and I think we'll be able to, and even the team as a result.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Chris, sometimes your Skype cuts in and out a little bit. I don't know that there's anything that we can do about it, but I think everybody got the gist, because I heard most of it pretty clearly, and I think that it's streaming fairly decently to the stream. I'm hoping that the volume is loud enough for everybody to hear. I think it is. If it's not, I apologize. We'll make sure that the volume levels are better. We'll get this more smoothed out as we go. But if you didn't catch that, the basic gist was that Chris is very excited to kind of watch the process. He hasn't sat down next to me while I'm programming over the last year, but he's been doing the artwork like a madman. As soon as he finishes the artwork, he hands it off, and as far as he knows, I go into a black hole, and then I emerge on the other side of the black hole with the programming in place. And he's just really appreciative. He can now understand and appreciate the work that we're going through to make this maintainable, and make sure that if another developer or another artist hops on the project, that we can quickly communicate and make sure that we carry this through to its finish. But yeah, that's really good, Chris. Thanks for that, man. And thanks for tuning in the last couple days. What will happen is Chris will be streaming on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, as I will not be able to those 3 days, but I will be definitely following along and possibly even hosting. So I'm going to try to help Chris get that set up before I am not able to be on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Again, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Tumblr. That's where all the action is happening, and then we do this daily. So we'd love to hear your input and your feedback, and just hopefully you can follow along and get excited about the project like we are, and maybe even learn a little something in the process. So thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks a lot, anybody who tuned in, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
Care, Brad. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.